Hopefully you guys are having a good Thursday morning. Have a really good session for you guys today. So we're going to be talking about SEO, pay-per-click, a lot of really interesting digital insights in general that I'll go through. Before I begin, I really like doing this exercise. This is my first time at Digital Dealer, so I haven't done it here, but I think it's applicable for everyone and everywhere. So if you guys have your phone out, we're going to do a really quick networking icebreaker exercise. And I don't know how many of you guys use this feature, but I've been using it more and more in conferences, and it's actually worked very well. So if you guys have your phone, if you open up the LinkedIn app, I think you could also do it if you go to LinkedIn website, but it works very well in the app. It'll only take 60 seconds, but I'll show you guys something cool, and then we'll jump into the session. So for those that just came in, if you grab your phones and open up the LinkedIn app. Once you're in the app, I don't know how well you guys see from here, but if you go to the connection screen, so where it shows you your connections, it's depending which type of phone you have, it's the two little blue dudes. They might be at the top, they might be at the bottom. Once you're there, at the top, at least on my Android phone, it says Find Nearby. So if you click that and press Enable Nearby, it'll actually show you everyone who has this open right now in this room. Usually works a little bit better at the beginning of the conferences versus the end, but this lets you really quickly network with people here, and you might be sitting literally next to someone that you could have a great business relationship with, or it's a vendor that you've been looking to meet, you just didn't get a chance to. With this, literally you see everyone there, and you literally could press the plus button next to it and add everyone. So feel free to keep this open, add people. I'll add everyone that just had it open, and I'm going to keep this open during the presentation, so feel free, if you're still loading it up, feel free to add me. But really cool tool to use, and literally people that are showing up here and you're adding are the people in this room around you. Cool. So I'll keep it open. I think eventually it'll time out and close it out, but I'll keep it open, so feel free, if you load it up, feel free to add me on there. Cool. So we're going to jump into the session. So our agenda for today is I'll do a quick one slide about me so you kind of see where I'm coming from with all of this. We're going to talk about some digital marketing trends, both the general trends and in the automotive space. Then we're going to talk about SEO, pay-per-click, social media, and then we have some takeaways at the end. Cool. So about me. So I've been involved in digital space for a very, very long time. That's me in 1991, those very fashionable shorts. I think I still have them somewhere too. One day they're going to come back in style. I'm going to be walking around rocking these things. That's me in 1991. I've literally been involved with computers since that age, or probably even younger. In 97, I actually started my first company, T35 Hosting. So for those of you that were around back then, this was about 2 months before GeoCities, and at the time, within that time period, yeah, GeoCities, Tripod, Hypermart, those kind of companies, if those ring any bells. This was literally at the start of the internet, and what I did with T35 Hosting and my colleagues did with the other brands I just mentioned is make the web accessible for everyone. So again, those that were involved back during that time and even earlier, up until around then, if you wanted to have a website on the internet, it was very, very difficult to do. You would have to call up your internet service provider, the AT&Ts of the world. It would take months and months and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So back then, right before this, 95, 96, there were very few websites on the internet because it was very difficult for anyone to do unless you're really a business that was at the forefront and really want to do it. So the idea of T35 Hosting and GeoCities and all the other companies that have since come and gone was to make it so anyone can have a website on the internet instantly and for free. So that was the concept that did very well. Wound up with over 1 million customers with T35 Hosting, and as opposed to GeoCities and some of the others that I mentioned, T35 Hosting is still around. We still run as a web hosting company. So it's the reason I mention it is just to frame the conversations and show you guys the digital landscape that came before that built kind of the digital space that we're in now. 2009, I helped my brother start one of the first SEO companies, Backlink Build. At the time, worked with almost, I wouldn't say all, but worked with the majority of Fortune 500 companies. This was, again, at the forefront of SEO and companies really taking SEO seriously and in actually paying and investing in SEO. And 2011, I started with my brother. I started Smart Sites. We're a full-service digital agency, so kind of brought together all the stuff that I've done before, and my brother had on his side as well. And since then, both myself and Smart Sites has been featured in a bunch of different publications. We have 6 offices now, up to 88 employees, and growing at a pretty good clip. Literally providing all the digital services that we've help pioneer over the decades before to anyone and everyone. So we're not auto specific. We work with every industry, and the slides I'm going to go through with you guys today, you'll see aren't industry specific. SEO, when done right, will work for anyone. Pay-per-click, when done right, will work for anyone, any industry. There's no reason to really have it be industry specific, because when done correctly, it works for everyone. Cool. So first section, we're going to talk about some digital marketing trends to kind of set the picture of the world we're in today in 2019. So this is actually probably a year outdated, but this is still a great slide with a lot of data. So I'm going to leave it up for a minute or two for you guys to quickly look at it, because there's a lot going on here, and I'll walk you through this in the next couple of slides. So what we're looking at here is time spent per media, TV, digital, radio, print, other. And this was put together at the start of 2018, I believe. So 2018 is forecasted, but actually came in even higher for digital and lower for TV. So the trend was even stronger than anticipated. So a good way to frame this, and we'll do quick exercise since it's the morning to make sure everyone's awake and with me. What is it now? It's 10:15. 10:15. How many people have spent, say, raise your hand if you spend more than an hour on your cell phone today? Okay. We have the majority of the room. How about more than an hour watching TV today? Not a single person. So that's pretty much the trend we're seeing. And the reason I bring this up is we'll go through a couple following slides that'll help us frame this in a way that we could see the opportunity in digital. So again, before I move away from this slide, it's just crazy to see that over the years where people are spending their time has shifted so strongly from everything else and into digital. And to give one more kind of takeaway before we move on from this, there's also a lot of studies that show even when people are consuming TV, sitting there watching TV, they're actually on their cell phone at the same time, and during commercials more so than anything, they're on their cell phone. So even if you think that you're still catching them on TV a good amount of time, a lot of time you're not. So this just shows the importance of digital and digital media, and at the end of the day, when you're trying to figure out how to get more bang for your buck from your marketing efforts, this is a good way to start looking at it, because it's not just throwing the marketing out there and getting something back. You have to think about where your consumers are, and you want to be targeting them where they're spending their time and where they are the most attentively spending their time. All right, next slide. So same information, we're looking at it a little bit different way. So again, these graphs take a little bit to really visualize the data, but let's start with our gentleman in half blue on the left. So this is similar to what we were looking at before, only done as percentages. So, and this is 2016. So 2.5 years into the future now, I could guarantee that the blue guy got a little bit bigger. So what we're looking at on the left is, as a percentage, where the consumers are spending their time. So similar to what we just looked at, just framed a little differently. Digital is 47% now in terms of media consumption, where the eyeballs are. Now let's shift over to the right. So this is U.S. ad spend. So this is where companies are actually spending their dollars. So even though, as we just all figured out from our exercise of where your spending your time. Literally, no one watched an hour of TV this morning, but everyone spent over an hour on their cell phone. The advertising dollars haven't caught up to that yet. The majority of ad spent in the U.S. is still going to TV, and this creates a really crazy arbitrage opportunity. So if you think about it, it's literally, even in 2019 now, it still hasn't caught up, where the companies are still, whether it's legacy stuff or in TV. I'm not going to say TV doesn't work. TV ads work. It works very well for a lot of companies. It works very well for branding. There's definitely uses for it. But the takeaway here is there's a really cool arbitrage opportunity that people don't realize still exists. I talked to a lot of people, and they're like, "Oh, Alex, it's 2019. It's definitely caught up now. This doesn't exist. It's now too expensive to advertise online." And for sure, especially if you consider things like Google AdWords, like paid media online, it'll continue being more and more expensive until it literally equals out, and you lose the arbitrage opportunity. And if you think back in time, prior to the internet and this opportunity we have now, there's been very few of these kind of opportunities in history where you're really get to advertise on a new platform where you're still getting a higher ROI than really you should be. And if you guys think, let's go all the way back, when radios just started becoming popular right after after the World War, there were a couple of companies that were the first to start advertising on radio, and they realized that people would literally get, if you guys have seen these pictures in the books, would get huge, like almost piece of furniture, right? And that would be the radio. And people would sit there attentively and listen to it. And some companies figured out, wow, we have this attentive audience. And they actually started doing radio ads. And the first couple of years, companies that did radio ads just had an amazing success with it. So I think digital, even though it's been around for a long time, the opportunity and arbitrage is still there. And I'll walk you through a couple more slides that'll make it a little bit more relevant to the automotive space. On the left, we have the same gentleman that we looked at in the previous slide, media consumption. On the right is actually in-market auto shopper. So Polk did a huge study. I think this data is from 2017, I want to say. And first of all, people who are in market for a car by default, just because of their age, are more likely to spend more time online, which makes sense because if you're 80 years old and don't need a car, just the way demographics work right now, you're not spending as much time online. But people who are in market for auto just by default spend more time on digital. But what's more important is that people who are in market for a car, specifically during the time they're in market, will spend even more time on digital as they do their research. If you think about it, as people are considering cars, researching cars, they're not going to the library, reading books about cars. They're not sitting there by the TV waiting for the relevant TV commercial to come on to learn about a specific model. So it's crazy to see that when someone is in market for a car, they're spending 75% of their media consumption in the digital space. And I'll give you guys a final slide on all this media consumption stuff. On the right is dealership media budgets from NADA that they did 2 years ago. And again, this is the same arbitrage opportunity we talked about on the general level, and this is specific to auto. So your consumer that you're trying to target and to get to come into your dealership, spending 75% of their time on digital, while the dealerships are only spending 34% of their budget on digital. So again, this is a huge arbitrage opportunity. This is why I have clients in every industry that go to me, Alex, this year pay-per-click prices went up, it's getting more expensive. They're like, what do you think? Do you think next year it'll get a little cheaper? I was like, no, it definitely won't, because people will keep realizing that there's an arbitrage opportunity and that more and more should be shifted in digital, and it'll continue to go up. But there's still a great ROI to be had. You have gotten better ROI 3 years ago than you would now, but there's still much better ROI than you'll see from other marketing budgets, especially when spent correctly. And I think we have one final general slide on digital before we jump in. So this is a study Google did. So Google did this really big study, and this is a slide they present actually internally to their auto-specific departments. They did a really big study, and this is from a year and a half ago, where they followed thousands of consumers who were in the journey, and Google's now very big on following the consumer journey and moments. So they followed the consumer journey for people who are buying a car. And they identified specific touch points that existed during this process. So I think it's a little hard to see, but this is the typical journey. It usually starts off on Google. Someone starts doing the initial auto research on Google. They wind up on the brand's page, right, on the brand's social page. This is before they even get to your dealership or before they know your dealership exists. They do videos on YouTube. Literally this whole journey, if you look through it, what Google found is 80% of the touch points are digital. Yes, they'll still see the TV ad, they'll still see the newspaper ad, but if you look through the entire journey, more and more of it's now becoming digital. If they want information about a car, they're not gonna wait for a magazine to come in to find the relevant article that just got lucky, and that was exactly the article they went to read. And what I found the most interesting, my big takeaway from this specific slide is if you look at it all the way at the end, so obviously they eventually they find your dealership, they wind up in your dealership, all the way in the end. So you guys see the gray visited a dealership? The thing right after is use the mobile device on the lot. So this was a separate study, and I decided not to bore you guys with too much of this data stuff. I'm a data guy, so I just love all of this stuff. But they did a separate study, and they found that 3/4 of consumers do a search on their cell phone right before buying the car at the dealership. So you already have them at the dealership. They already came in there, but they'll still do a spot check maybe on price, maybe on deals. So it's just crazy to see that not only is the consumer journey so heavily weighing towards digital, but even the experiences that are in a physical store, they're doing the spot checks on their cell phone. So again, this is all before we jump into content to kind of see where we are in the digital landscape in 2019 and auto specific. And this is, by the way, I have a similar slide for a lot of other industries. Auto specifically weighs heavier on digital than almost any other industry. It's just the digital space has just given consumers so many opportunities to do research and educate themselves before they even look for a dealership that I think it's changed the game, and the dealerships that are doing digital and doing it well are seeing much better results than those that have been holding out. Because if you guys remember from the slide before, as much as I think everyone here thinks, oh, my dealership does mostly digital, blah, 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 you still have all those other buckets of ad spend. That's the radios, the out-of-home, the magazines. Cool, how are we on time? We're gonna jump into the session itself, the SEO, pay-per-click, social media. Every piece of this could be its own hour session, so it's very summarized here, and my goal is to give you guys just some takeaways and basic understanding of how this works. So you could, if you work in a dealership, apply for your dealership. If you don't work in a dealership and have a different role, just so you have a basic understanding of SEO, pay-per-click, because I think these are all important things today in 2019 and will be for a very long time. So we'll start with SEO. All the following three sections are structured the same. I talk a little bit about what SEO is, and then I give you the kind of automotive take on it. SEO, it's interesting from all the different speaking sessions I've done, and again, I don't do industry specific, so I've been told the dealerships. I think the most popular question I get asked, and not so much here, I feel like in this space, or at least at this conference, being Digital Dealer Conference, a lot of people at least know the basics of some of this stuff. But outside of this, the most popular question I get asked is, what is SEO? I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and it's gotten to a point where it's really, people feel like it's a mystery box. When they hire someone to do their SEO and you ask them what you think that company is doing, most people won't be able to tell you. So we're going to try to clear that up a little bit, because at the end of the day, it's actually very simple. So the formula, and again, being a numbers guy, everything here in the next couple of slides will be formula based. Just helps me frame it, and hopefully it will help you guys as well. Google's formula, everyone loves to try to figure out. You have thousands of SEO experts that have published papers on it, etc. But I think, and those that do SEO in the room and know this stuff, we could back me up on it, 90% of it will come down to this. Of course, there's other things. There's Google does a lot of algorithm changes and updates and all these words you might have heard being thrown around. But most of it is really to clean up the algorithm and get people who are not following the rules to be penalized. So outside of all the penalizations for people who try to get around the rules, the formula comes down to this. So you want to have unique content, you want to have relevant links, and literally how high you rank, or now it's framed a little differently, how much organic traffic you get is a product of your unique content, your relevant links, and technical errors. So what does that mean? So for example, I have to go in luxury sedan here. Why is Car and Driver lower than US News, for example? Obviously, Car and Driver, all of these companies up here, as you see, Edmunds, have tons of money to invest, right? If it was like paying an extra grand to be higher, they would do it. The reason is actually, in their SEO tools, you could pull this up. US News has more authoritative websites linking to them, and they have more unique content. That's literally what it comes down to. It gets a little bit dicier on this kind of very big level, but if you're a dealership and want to see why another dealership is ranking higher than you, you could use some of the tools, and a lot of them are free. And you could see how many links they have. You want, obviously, and this is what the algorithms are for, make sure it's not spammy links and all that, how many authoritative websites are linking to them, and how much unique pieces of content they have. And of course, if your website has technical errors and your metas are not set up and things like that, that'll just drop you automatically. Another way to think about all of this is, so the links from authoritative websites, a good way to kind of frame it is, if important websites link to you, Google gives you more credit and thinks you're more important, which makes sense, which was the basis of the original Google algorithm. Back when Google just started and Yahoo was a directory, Yahoo's idea, this was the two big ideas at the time, literally when Yahoo just started. Yahoo's idea was that everything was going to be in a directory, neatly organized. Google's idea was that they would use, and they came up with an algorithm they called, well, they had a lot of different things that they were working at that time, but the big piece of it was that if important sites link to you and you have unique content, that by itself signifies that you're important, and that's how they would rank things on Google. I'll walk you guys through the three buckets in the automotive space to help frame it a little bit more. So first, we'll start with unique content. A good way to think of content in terms of Google is content gives you the opportunity to come up and search for something. So this is just two examples of content in the automotive space. The left side, I would consider top of the funnel, right side, bottom of the funnel in terms of your consumer journey. So this is the way it works. If you have a page on your website that compares your car to a competitor car or something like that, and someone Googles it, your page will come up and they'll land on your website. If you don't have that page, no matter how many people link to you, you could have the most authoritative website in the world. If you don't have the content, you just won't come up and search for it. So the content on your website gives you literally the opportunity to come up in Google. So that's why you always hear, especially in the SEO space, content is king, content's important. Without content, no matter how many people link to you, no matter what website you have, if you don't have an article comparing your Toyota 4Runner to a Jeep, and someone searches for that, you just won't come up. So these actually are really good top of funnel. These people usually who are searching these things will not end up in your dealership that day, that month, maybe that year, but it helps build awareness. So they're searching comparisons, they're searching model research, they wind up on your dealership article, they read about it, they know your dealership exists now, they see the brand at the top. Maybe they'll wind up buying another car, or maybe they won't come back, but at the very least it helps build awareness, and it's really the top of the funnel. The right side is actually the opposite. It's as close as we could get to the bottom of the funnel. So the way this works is if you create direction pages on your website, and same idea, just by creating it, gives you the opportunity to show up in Google for it. So if you create direction pages for the towns next to your dealership, and someone searches that town, because literally that's what people do. When people decide to buy a specific car, they're going to search for the dealership. They might type in dealership near me, or they might actually put in their town, dealership near, or dealership in Orlando, Florida. If your dealership is not in Orlando, Florida, let's say you're a town over, right? You won't come up because you have nothing that mentions Orlando, Florida. So the way the direction pages work is you literally create pages that say, this is how to get to my dealership from Orlando, Florida. And then when someone searches dealership in Orlando, Florida, you come up for it. That's been really, really powerful and good content to bring people into a dealership with much faster than the top of funnel guys. But I think both sides are important, and there's always content in the middle that's good too. When creating content, the one thing I would just recommend is to think about the content you're creating and what user you're going to get from that content. We've seen a lot of SEO companies in the automotive space recommend things like blogs and charge you guys for blog posting, blah, blah, blah. And you just have to take a look at the content that's being posted. A lot of times I see things like how to replace the battery in your key fob, right? Things like that. People search it, you'll get a click from it, but is that the consumer that's going to come in and buy a new car? No, that's probably someone that just bought the car. So it just, as you create the content, you always want to be thinking of who's going to be searching this, and is this the consumer I want to target? Second thing is relevant links. So like we talked about earlier, the more authoritative websites that link to you, the higher rank on Google. Relevancy has become really big in the last 3 to 4 years. So it's not just getting lots of links everywhere from everyone. For example, we have an entire list of all different car dealership sites, mechanic sites, a lot of like car-specific forums. And the way we do it and the way it should be done is through manual outreach. So it used to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. It was all about bots and getting links and trading links and all of that. And that's all the stuff that Google has been penalizing over the years, and companies that did it before have wound up being penalized, and people who still try to get it, go around Google's rules. At the end of the day, Google will find a way to patch that hole and will penalize you. So the way to do it, the right way to do it, is literally manual outreach. So what we do is usually between the lists we already have of all the appropriate auto websites that can link to you, we start the research by taking one of your better competitors, someone that comes up on Google really well, and you can actually put in in a tool, and it tells you all the websites that link to them. And then you manually reach out and say, it could be a garage shop, right? It's funny, in a lot of states, the DMV actually lists car dealerships. And that's super authoritative because it's usually .org, or it depends on the state. But by doing the research, you could see what websites are linking to your competitors, and then you just reach out to those.
What tool is that?
There's a lot of different ones. There's Ahrefs as one, SEMrush is another, Majestic is another one. There's a bunch out there. They usually give you some kind of free trial thing. There's also even with Google itself, there's tricks where you could see the links, you could see the content. Like if you go on Google and do I think it's site semicolon and put in the URL, it'll show you all the content that dealership has. So there's, even within Google itself for free, there's a lot of ways to pull up this data.
Would you just put, so like in any of those, because I've used a few of those, would you just put your competitors to do analysis of
Yeah, so you put your competitor, and most of them will have like literally a section of what links they have.
Gotcha.
And what an amazing place to start getting links. You could see everywhere your competitor. So you're not reaching out to sites there's a lot of sites that charge you for it, and which is illegal. Google, not illegal, but Google doesn't allow you to purchase links. They'll penalize you for it. But if you start up with a competitor that ranks well in Google, most of the time you're going to find the really good links that they have. Yeah, no problem. Last piece is technical errors. So no matter how good your content, how good your links, if you have technical errors on your website, you're not going to be in good shape. I'll start with an extreme example, but every website should have a robots.txt file that tells Google what to crawl, what not to crawl. If by mistake, there's literally the text in it is allow or disallow. If by mistake it says disallow, you block Google from your entire website and you will not come up in Google, no matter how much content you have, no matter what you do. Obviously, it's an extreme example, but funny enough, we see it from time to time. It's because in a lot of times, auto space is a little bit different because there's website platforms that are kind of almost mandated, in a lot of cases mandated, so it's a little different. But outside the auto world, a lot of websites are built on development space and then launched live. And I've seen companies when launching live forget, on the development space, you don't want Google crawling it because you're still developing it, you don't want duplicate content. When they launch it, they don't change it. So aside from that, there's a lot of other technical things on websites, meta tags, headers, things like that, H1s that should be optimal for Google to be able to read your site in the best way and give you all the credit that you should be getting for your content and relevancy. See our paces. Next up is pay-per-click. So pay-per-click, I also see as a formula. The formula for pay-per-click is you want your customer value to be higher than your cost per click times your conversion rate. And there's a lot of pay-per-click platforms. I'm going to just bring them all up. There's a lot of pay-per-click platforms. I think it's important to think about, and I consider Facebook pay-per-click also because paid Facebook as two parts of Facebook. A part will fall under social, which we'll talk about next, but the more powerful piece is the paid ads that same as Google, you pay for click. When thinking about the platforms, I think, again, like we started this presentation, you really have to think about where your consumers are. In the auto space, it's going to weigh really, really heavy towards Google for the most important searches and most important people. And if you think about it, it's because of mobile. So even though Bing still has, I think in the US they have 15% market share, I want to say. If you want to look at mobile, they have almost zero. How many people have gone on their cell phone and loaded up Bing to search something on Bing, right? It's all searched on Google. So again, every business is different. Not everyone here has a dealership. Some people have other auto-related stuff, so you have to think about where you want to be. And there's always a lot of considerations if you want to target people specifically. LinkedIn actually works really well if you're targeting specific professions you want to target. So there's definitely a lot of interesting ways to do it. For example, with LinkedIn, interesting thing that we tried recently is that you could create, and this is for those in the car dealership space, you could create a page on your website specific to a corporation. So let's say next door to your dealership is a big company with a lot of employees. You create a page on there that makes it make it some kind of program for them. And it doesn't have to be anything special, but you could throw in, you guys automatically get this discount or this price. And it's literally could just be a page somewhere on the website, doesn't have to be on the homepage. Then with LinkedIn, you could literally target the people who are in that building next to you with an ad that says, congratulations for working at this company, you qualify for a discount with us. So all the different platforms have their purpose. I think the big takeaway with Google pay-per-click, with pay-per-click in general and more so with Google, is that it's very scalable. If you find the right formula, literally if your customer value is going to be higher than your cost per click times the conversion rate, you're golden, right? It scales very easily. It's very powerful. It's instant. You could today turn it on and right away get people calling your dealership, coming into your dealership. On the flip side, it could be expensive, and if done wrong, it's very easy to lose a lot of money. I'll walk you through the automotive side of pay-per-click. So the reason it's so powerful is that you really have full control over the entire advertising process with pay-per-click and specifically with Google AdWords, now called Google Ads. You control which exact part of the consumer journey you want to target. So these are the, and this is actually put together by Google, part of the same deck that the other slide was. This is the consumer journey to buy a car. So it begins with which car is best, is this car right for me, can I afford it? When thinking about pay-per-click, you really want to think about it in this way. You want to really hone in on these different steps in the consumer journey and target the right person at the right time with the right message, right? If someone's still in the awareness stage, you might not want to be spending the $5 per click to get them to your website, right? If they just wanna research something about a new Lexus that's coming out, right? Might as well have them go to Lexus's website as opposed to your dealership one because they're not as valuable. Then when they get to the ready to buy buckets over here, that's when you target them, and that's when you target them with very specific messaging. Every single one of those buckets should be a completely different ad group with completely different targeting, different keywords, different ad copy, and landing them to different places. If someone's searching, I want to get what are the current deals on Lexus, for example, you don't want to land them on your homepage. You want to land them on the page as the deals. Similarly, if you're advertising a specific deal, let's say you have a specific lease price you're advertising. If your ad says get this car lease for $199 a month, and then you land them on the homepage, you've lost that consumer. They're expecting to be in a specific moment, and you just landed them to a general bucket. So again, these are things to be careful with, but this is also what makes it powerful. You create such exact relevancy when literally someone in your geography is going on and searching for a lease for a specific car, you literally could show them your lease, land them on the page that has the lease special, and then from there direct them to view the inventory that's part of the deal or to call you right away. And everything with digital is trackable. You could track every single click, what they do after. You could after they land on your website, if they call you, you could track what keyword they searched before they called you. So everything's trackable, and once you figure out the exact strategy and have a correct strategy, it's very easy to scale and just get more people through the door. Next, we have social media. So social media, I know there's a lot of companies here that do a lot in the social media space. My suggestion, not just for auto, but for every industry, has typically been outside of paid social media, which I consider the PPC section. I really push the businesses themselves to do social media. And I know a lot of people would disagree with me on it, but that's I feel that's when other companies are posting things for you on social media that might not align with your business or might not align with your messaging or what you do, I think in the end it creates more problems than it solves. But with that aside, I think social media is important. It's important for brand building. It's important for creating an image, right? Because social media, you could create a really powerful, positive image of your dealership. And if you highlight your positive experiences and have your customers highlight them and share them, you're going to have your customers bringing you more customers. They'll be doing the work for you. The reason, well, we have, as always, everything's with a formula for me. I think the formula is followers times engagement. If you have 1 million followers, but they're all bots and don't engage with you, you get nothing, right? And on the flip side, if you have amazing engagement from 2 followers that themselves don't have any followers, that also does nothing for you. So with social media, it's always important to have the followers and engagement. There's a lot of platforms out there. I think over the last couple of years, people are realizing there's some main ones. When I did this exact slide 3 years ago, I remember I had like 12 social media platforms out there. Now I have less and less. Google Plus went away. I just took off the Google Plus logo from the slide, actually. Google Plus just closed down the majority of their business a couple weeks ago. I think it's important to really focus on a specific one. Of course, if you have unlimited time, unlimited budgets, unlimited everything, you could be doing all of them. But I find the biggest mistake people make in social media is using the same post, the same messaging on different platforms, and it just doesn't work. And people see that it looks weird. For example, on Instagram, you want to be posting your image with lots of hashtags because there's discoverability. You want people to find this content, this image. If you start posting on LinkedIn just images with 40 hashtags, no one's going to interact with that content. On LinkedIn, people are more interested in articles and actually reading content, reading information versus Instagram, where people just want to see an image. So I would say be very careful with what you post where, but I think it's just a strategy thing. You decide, I want to be on this platform, I want to do well on this platform, I want to be here because my website visitors are here. I'll do a couple, there's a couple of quick tips here. Again, the companies here that do social media professionally will do a lot more than this, but this is kind of things that dealerships should be doing themselves. It's very easy to do and very powerful. So optimize profiles. You don't want to have a profile that has no image or no background picture, right? You want it linked from your website. If you have a profile that just exists by itself, people aren't going to really look for it and find it. And I find that actually a common mistake. A lot of people have profiles and just, oh, I didn't bother putting it on my website. It's a way to grow your social media presence outside of engaging with some agencies that provide these services. You could follow users who follow your competitors. With social media, similar to SEO, you could actually see who follows your competitors. So if they're interested in your competitor, maybe they'll be interested in you. In social media, a lot of it is literally people following you back if you follow them. So it's a very good process to go through to see who's actually following your competitors. You can follow users who post with certain hashtags. General one is cars, for example, might be a little bit more challenging to get lots of people to follow you back from that. But what about looking up hashtags of the city you're in, right? I'm sure each city you're in has their own tags, people posting about it. Follow the people in your city. Follow the people in this that post about a city next to your city. You want to interact with everyone. Number 4. Follow with your current followers, with your competitors. There's no reason not to interact. People will interact with you more if you show that you're interacting with others. And of course, post regularly. If you're going to have a Twitter profile just to have one, just because someone said you should have a Twitter profile and you never post on it, never do anything on it, I would say just take it down. Nothing's worse than someone landing on it and trying to figure out if you're still in business. Before I go to takeaways, I had some pictures, and this is not something we did. I just looked around and saw cool things that dealerships were doing. Post pictures of your staff, right? There's so much stuff. So this is outside of stuff agencies could do for you. This is stuff that you could do internally at your dealership to really promote positivity of your dealership. Someone just bought a car. Ask them if it's okay to take a picture and post it, right? They share this. They're literally getting you customers. They're sharing it to their friends as a positive experience. Post about things going on in local communities. There's so much that could be done, and I think it's so much more powerful to do it internally from your dealership, where you're literally on the spot and taking these pictures. You're at the consumer touch point. They buy a car, they're really excited, they're really happy. Can I take a picture with you and post it? Sure, and post it up. And there's just so much more power in this than just blindly posting just regular content and just to post on your social media. Cool, takeaways are right on time. So just a quick summary of what we talked about today. These are what I would consider the 3 pillars of digital. So you have SEO, pay-per-click, social media. SEO, I think, is really, really important for long-term visibility. The power in SEO is it's long-lasting. Some people say forever lasting, but the way it works is if you stop SEO, and by SEO I mean doing the link building and content writing, if you just stop it, you'll still keep ranking exactly where you were. The only reason it won't be forever lasting is because if your competitors keep doing more of it, they'll start outranking you. But you won't get, in most cases, the immediate return for SEO, but the long-term value is huge. PPC is immediate exposure. You literally could turn on a campaign in an hour, get people coming into your store. The power with it is that it's very scalable. Once you track everything and you know that you're getting results from it, it's very easy to grow it and get more results from it. And then social media is really important for sharing and engaging and really creating a positive view of your dealership. And we didn't talk about this too much today. I have an entire deck I do on it, but measure, analyze, optimize. One of the most powerful things about digital is that there's almost unlimited data. You could and should track absolutely everything. For example, I'll give you one really good tip. Google Analytics actually will tell you demographic data. Google has been doing this for a while, but in the last couple of years, they've gotten really good at it. So in 3/4 of the cases, they'll tell you the visitor's gender, age, and income category. but they won't tell you it unless you turn on demographic targeting or Google Analytics. So if you go and turn it on today, the data collection starts from today. It costs nothing. It's no obligation there, right? But if you don't turn it on, you literally won't have demographic data in your Google Analytics. So it's just important that you're tracking everything. Even if you're not ready to measure optimize, you want to make sure that you're tracking everything. You know, you're tracking your phone calls. You know if the phone call came from SEO or pay-per-click, for example. And then once you have the capacity to start optimizing on that, that's where the power comes in. If you know that certain ad copy is bringing you twice more phone calls than another, that's really powerful information and can increase conversions by a huge amount. Final slide for today. So I like to put this together as a final takeaway for people to really think about the content we went through today and then take it back home with them and try to get value out of the session. It's like a checklist, and I purposely left everything, all the numbers blank, because it's specific to every dealership. It's specific to every company. It depends how many resources you have to dedicate it to this. It depends on a lot of factors, but I think the most important part is to actually write these things down and come up with a plan. So you want to publish a certain amount of pieces of content per month. I think if you don't make it a plan, it doesn't happen. So just to think about it and go back to your dealership and say, this is our plan, we're going to publish, we don't have a lot of resources now, let's publish one piece of content per month. Literally every piece of content you publish is an opportunity to show up on Google. For pay-per-click, you want to be using, as we talked about earlier, different strategies. So you want to be targeting every part of the consumer journey in a different way. Similarly, you really want to think about and say, wow, I should really take a look at my pay-per-click campaign. Am I targeting everyone the same way? Am I targeting the person just doing research about the brand the same way I am as someone looking to come into a dealership and buy a car today? Social media we just spoke about. You really want to think about and decide how many social media platforms you want to be active on. And it doesn't have to be on all of them. You really don't have to be everywhere. You just want to think about how many resources you have to allocate to it, and you have to think about where your consumers are. In the auto space, I would imagine the majority are Facebook, Instagram, but Twitter's important, LinkedIn is important too. It just depends, again, where in the consumer journey you want to reach people and with what content. If you want them to read an article about a new special car you have or a new special model coming out, maybe LinkedIn's the way to do it. Write an article for it, put it on LinkedIn. If you want to post a picture about a specific color car you got, maybe Instagram's the platform. If you sell a lot of, for example, in the exotic car world, it's very color specific. Someone will fly from the other side of the country if you have the color they want. Maybe posting on Instagram with the pictures of that specific color is the way to go. I just talked about this, but set up tracking, measure, analyze. If you do nothing else, look up demographic targeting in Google Analytics when you get home and make sure you have it enabled in your Google Analytics. First of all, make sure you have access to your Google Analytics. I found a lot of dealerships don't even have access to it. Make sure you have Google Analytics, you have access to it, and enable the demographic data. If you don't enable it, you won't have it. If you want to do something with it a year from now, you won't have it until you enable it. So if I don't impart any other knowledge in you guys today, I would say that's really important, and Google is getting better and better at it. And this information feeds back into anything you want. It'll feed back into AdWords, it'll feed back into anywhere. And then you could start making decisions based on that data. And the last one is don't be afraid to partner with an agency. In the auto space specifically, I found it very interesting that a lot of companies, there's a lot of legacy thinking going on. There's a lot of people that have been working with an agency or person for a long time. I would almost say it's a mix. We have half of the, I think, auto space just working with the same company for a long time, and it's just something we've been doing 5-6 years. And then the other half is even worse off, and it's like, who's doing your AdWords? Well, it's my cousin's girlfriend. I'm like, that's good. And you've looked at it? You have access to it? No, but she knows what she's doing. She's getting all A's in college. She definitely knows what she's doing. I think either way, don't be afraid to partner with an agency or look at some of the agencies that are out there. I found in the auto space, a lot of agencies are very big on pushing very long-term contracts, but I just wanted to let you guys know that that's not everyone. There's a lot of places that will do 1 month, 2 month, 3 months. So I think it's, in a lot of cases, agencies can provide a lot of value for a lower cost than most people realize. And that's all I have. I think we have a couple minutes, very few minutes, but if anyone has any questions, I could answer some questions. Questions? Cool. If no questions, thank you guys. I have some business cards up here if you guys want to come grab them. And I'm always on the social media sites. Thank you.